I spend a lot of time emulating Game Boy games. It's one of my favorite things to do other than eating food and crying. I love playing them to forget my troubles, but every time I'm scrolling through that Game Boy library on my doodad, I get a little sad because it's finite. No new Game Boy games, just the same old classics forever. Or so I thought. Turns out that there's people out there actually making new Game Boy games. Real Game Boy games made by people today in 2000 and whatever year it is. What is it? 2025. And here's the thing. They're actually amazing. Some of the best ideas that ever graced that glorious 4 shades of gray potato. I spent my whole life bracing for disappointment and now, suddenly, things are looking up. I don't know, man. There's got to be a catch. I don't trust it. Yeah, that checks out. Hey there, how you doing? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. So yeah, like I was saying in the intro, modern Game Boy games, they're a thing. That's right, the future is now. And it's weirdly stuck in 1992, I guess. Because today I'm going to show you a whole bunch of really cool modern Game Boy games. I have 10 of them to show you, believe it or not. And there may or may not be a cameo by yours truly in one of them. More on that in a bit. I'll have links for all these games in the description below. Most of them are free, but a couple of them are just a few bucks. Totally worth it to support these awesome developers making modern Game Boy games, if you ask me. Which you probably did, but if you didn't, then you should. Also, because I know I'm going to be asked, I played and recorded all the gameplay for all these games on my Retroid Pocket Classic. I'll drop a link to my review of this bad boy in the description below. And now you're probably saying, TechDweeb, just shut up and get to the games already. And if you're saying that, well, rude, but okay. Let's look at some games. Now, an autumn with you is sort of what would happen if My Neighbor Totoro was squished down to fit on a tiny greenish screen powered by AA batteries. Which makes sense. Totoro came out around the time when the original Game Boy was released, so this is like a glimpse into what a Studio Ghibli style game would have been like back then. You play as a girl who just moved into a new house, and surprise, the forest near your home is magic and full of weird magical stuff. The game has you wandering around, poking at things, solving simple little puzzles, and piecing together the mystery. It's all super chill, super cute, and it gives off those peaceful, cozy vibes that make you feel like maybe life isn't a relentless grind after all. It only takes about 15 minutes to finish, unless you're me, in which case you'll get stuck 7 times and the game will magically transform into a 60-minute existential crisis. But honestly, it's such a nice experience, it'll leave you wanting more. The art style is adorable and the atmosphere is pure comfort food, and it's just one of those tiny games that sticks with you way longer than you expect. Highly recommended if you like your adventures small and sweet and just a little bit mysterious. Big to Small is this really simple game. You play for a bit and learn how it works, and at first you're going to be like, is this it? But really quickly you realize that these puzzles are hard yet fair and insanely addictive to try to solve. It is a tile-based puzzle game where you control a squad of cute animals, a chunky elephant and a plucky goat and a tiny mouse, and you gotta maneuver them to their goal, which is their own preferred food. They gotta get there, and they need to work together. You switch between them and use them to body block each other. The whole thing is packaged in this delightfully whimsical and high quality production values game. It's not just good for homebrew, it's straight up better than probably half of the Game Boy library itself. The puzzles start simple, but keep layering new mechanics in there, and the pixel art is crystal clear. No, what the heck is that blob supposed to be moments here. Honestly, I thought I'd play for 5 minutes, then the next thing I knew I was emotionally attached to my tiny pixel elephant. I just needed that little guy to get to his peanut more than anything in the world. I mean, if you don't love puzzle games, you're not gonna like this. I wouldn't call myself a puzzle game lover, but even for me, I almost immediately became super addicted to this one, and I had a hard time putting it down. Porklike is one of the most glorious dumb ideas I've seen. And I mean that with love. It's a classic turn-based roguelike where you, a tiny pixel pig, invade the Tower of Worst Lord to fight through 9 floors of traps and monsters and pure meat-based chaos, all to steal a kielbasa, which I assume is made from the remains of previous adventurers, just like real kielbasa. Every floor is one single screen and you slowly uncover the map as you move around. Try not to immediately die, even though you probably will. The twist is that instead of weapons, you collect fighting moves like slap and grapple and suplex, which basically turns the whole game into a pig meat themed MMA roguelike. The art is super simple, but it works perfectly, and the music is way cooler than you'd expect from a game where the final boss is basically a sausage overlord. I love the combination of the chill vibes and the addictive roguelike gameplay. It's silly and smart and weirdly intense. I actually played this a ton on the Pico 8, but I think I like the Game Boy version better. I like the simple one-color palette. It suits the overall vibe of this game better, I think. This game totally hooked me in the best way. I'm actually legitimately going to be playing a ton of this. I can promise you that. Traumatarium Penitent is the sequel to the original Traumatarium, but both are great, but the sequel really improved on every aspect of the game, and especially the art. I mean, the original was great, but freaking look at this game. Have you ever seen a better looking Game Boy game? I'll answer for you. No. And this is an absolute treat for anyone who secretly wishes that their Game Boy could punch them in the face, by which I mean that this game is punishing. It's a dungeon crawler where you play as a penitent knight, wandering gloomy labyrinths, fighting skeletons, golems, and other creepy pixel bad guys, all while trying to avoid starving to death, which you will. Again and again. This game hits that sweet spot for being simple but punishing. Every step you take drains your vitality, so you're always scrambling for food, whether it's in crates or weapons or, dead guys. It's delightfully grim. The password save system feels ancient in the best way, and I may or may not have mashed random digits just to see what cursed timelines I could unlock. The chunky, detailed sprites look fantastic, and the claustrophobic dungeons crank up the tension. I mean, I kind of wish that there were a few more RPG mechanics, but that's probably just me. What we do have here oozes atmosphere and old school charm. This one isn't free, but it's just a few bucks, and I highly recommend it if you want a mini portable adventure that's ready to crush your spirit at every turn. I am not good at baking. I don't think I've ever pulled anything out of the oven and thought, wow, that turned out great. Usually it's more like, well, I guess I'm eating this anyway. Cookies Bakery makes me feel like a baking pro for once. It's one of those games that wraps you up in cozy vibes and convinces you, just for a second, that everything might actually be okay, even if your real life oven is full of shattered dreams. You run a tiny bakery in the days before the Winter Festival, taking orders from your pixelated neighbors, gathering ingredients, and baking cute little batches of pixel cookies. The gameplay is super simple. Listen to what people want and grab the right stuff and bake away. The graphics are packed with charm. Sparkly characters and wintry houses and cute little cutscenes that make you want to crawl inside your Game Boy to hibernate because it's so dang cozy. The music's great too. I was full on bobbing along while ignoring my real life responsibilities playing this. If you need a cozy escape, Cookies Bakery is pure comfort food. Highly recommended for stressed out dweebs like me. Speaking of which, does anyone know how to pay off credit card debt while continuing to keep buying handhelds? And at this point, I wanted to take a quick break for a little intermission to do a few quick honorable mentions. The first is Virtual BMO, which lets you turn your doodad into a BMO, which is an adorable little computer character from Adventure Time. I gave you the full tour of that in this video. The next is Dangan, which is a bullet hell boss rush game that is so freaking hard, but it's so well done and the mechanics are so tight and fair that I don't even care that I suck at it. I actually play this all the time in the hopes that it will make me better at bullet hell games. And finally, this one is so freaking cool. Retro Handheld Simulator, which is a super simple, short, and freaking hilariously funny game about collecting retro handhelds. The main character is this dorky little nerd guy who lives in his mom's basement, which is a premise that really speaks to me for some reason. I made a whole video about this, so I didn't want to double dip in this video, so go watch my full video if you want to see it in action, or just play it. If you're into retro handhelds, this game is like a playable inside joke about our hobby. And finally, to round off this intermission, I've been told by the higher-ups that I should ask you to subscribe if you haven't yet. Just doing my job, you know? Glory Hunters is what happens when you take the spirit of an old school Zelda and crank up the ambition. You play as a sword-swinging hero trying to save the world of Glorianta from a massive celestial disaster. But here's the twist, you don't level up by killing enemies or finding heart pieces. You earn glory points by doing all kinds of stuff. Cutting bushes and poking around wells, reading signposts, and you spend those points to unlock new areas and upgrades. Basically, you get rewarded for being a curious little dweeb. which worked out great for me, so that checks out. This isn't free. They did a Kickstarter to fund this one, and you can buy it for the Game Boy for like $5, and it's actually coming out on Steam soon too. I didn't know what I was getting into when I tried this one. The world is huge, way bigger than I ever expected, and the pixel art and music are top tier. Seriously, right up there with all the best Game Boy games. I have a few minor gripes with the save system and the way that death is handled, but I'm loving the game. It's super clever and addictive, and it feels like a lost Game Boy game, like a lost Zelda or whatever, with a giant retro world full of secrets for you to discover. Jabberwocky is exactly the kind of nonsense that I live for. This game is goofy as heck. It's a narrative adventure made in just a few days for a game jam, I think, but don't let that fool you. It's super polished for what it is. You play as Hero, the village's designated hero, who's been voluntold to save everyone from the legendary Jabberwocky by tomorrow. No pressure, right? The whole thing is a goofy riff on Lewis Carroll's classic poem, but in Game Boy form. The art is awesome. Great character sprites and map design, and the music bops along perfectly while you wander around trying to look heroic. It's really short and very silly, which is honestly part of the charm. You get a handful of little tasks and a lot of quirky little dialogue and enough weirdness to make you feel like you've stepped into some bizarre alternate universe where everyone is very chill about impending doom. It's goofy, it's fast, and it's 100% worth a playthrough, especially if, like me, you've always wanted to fight a mythical beast, but you're too lazy to leave your mom's cozy basement. There's something hilariously perfect about a noir detective story where the main character is a duck. Sam Mallard, the curse of the missing swan, drops you into that classic black and white world of crime and mystery and shady characters, and it nails that weird, wonderful vibe with an excellent art style that feels like a perfect mashup of old school adventure games and film noir. Apparently, this one is built on a custom Game Boy engine, which is super impressive to a pleb like me. The classic adventure game style is simple but atmospheric, with moody city streets and quirky characters, and a great use of the Game Boy palette to create that iconic black and white detective story feel. The puzzles can be a bit tricky at times, especially since some of the solutions aren't exactly obvious, but hey, if you played old adventure games before, you know the drill. Getting stuck is practically part of the experience. Like lots of the games on this list, this isn't some epic life-consuming game. It's a short, sharp little adventure that knows exactly what it's doing. I went in for the art style and the novelty, and I stayed because I got invested in a gritty mystery in a grimy city as a duck. Soul Void feels like a mashup of Undertale and my weirdest nightmares. Actually, that's not true. My nightmares are a lot weirder than any Game Boy game could ever be. But I mean that in the best way possible. This is an authentic feeling Game Boy style adventure, almost a horror game, where you explore unsettling landscapes and help lost souls and confront your own inner demons while searching for a way home. It's kind of almost existential, and the vibe is dark and eerie and oddly comforting all at once. What really hooked me is how well it balances the creepy and the heartfelt. The retro pixel art is full of disturbing little details, but it's never gross or anything, just weird and unsettling. There's a real story here with emotional moments and strange characters that linger in your brain long after you put it down. It's not hard, it's kind of a cakewalk actually, and if you get stuck there is a guide, so pretty much anyone can jump in and get fully absorbed here. I think if you like horror themes, thoughtful writing, quirky characters, or you just want to get into a weird underworld vibe, then this one is worth the few hours it'll take to see it through. And it's free too, so just go get it. Alright, this is hands down one of the coolest things to ever happen to me as a TechDweeb. Hobby Chop presents TechDweeb in Rabbit King's Night of the Zombie handheld video game console Snatchers is a full-on retro Game Boy game, and I'm the star. Yeah, really, this one is me. I've honestly never really felt like I made it until I saw myself as a pixelated sprite in a Game Boy game. This is basically my young TechDweeb's dream come true. I actually got emotional when I fired this up for the first time. This was made by the cool and talented JWG LLC, aka Jeremiah WG, with art and support from a couple other cool, amazing folks in the TechDweeb community. Big shout out to Rabbit King, who came up with the original concept and artwork, and Greasy Garbage Goblin, who did the cutscene art. You dweebs freaking rock. So a bit about Jeremiah. I've been talking to this guy since the early days of my time doing TechDweeb stuff. He's done a few other Game Boy projects like Friday the 13th, the Game Boy game, and Slender, the 8 Pages. I'll include some links below to some of his other stuff, and he also runs Dire Interactive Entertainment, which is his small but awesome developer club, and they have a Discord too, and you can join it if you're into dev stuff. And as for the game, it's simple. Here's the premise. Zombies have stolen our handheld consoles. Truly the most horrifying thing imaginable. And it's up to me, TechDweeb, to head down into the sewers and get them back. I went into an actual sewer once, and, well, let's just say they're not as full of fun and adventure as they're portrayed on TV and games. There's a lot more poo down there than I was expecting. Night of the Zombie handheld video game console Snatchers is a tough as nails jumpy jump style platformer. That's basically all you'll be doing, jumping. And I guess puzzling out how the levels work trying to get to the Game Boy. It has some rough edges and old school physics that take a bit to master, but once you get into it, it's addictive. Or if you're like me, you'll at least enjoy watching me die over and over in hilarious ways. I completely suck at the game, but it's the kind of game that you can get better at. It's almost got a Celeste vibe, where you jump and jump and jump and die, and then you are instantly back at the start ready to try again. And again, the pixel art is killer. As a pixel art lover, I was delighted when I saw this in action, and I can't even explain how surreal and awesome it is to see my dweeby little avatar in full Game Boy glory. I'm blown away and humbled that I could ever play a small part of a project like this, even if it's just being eaten by zombies over and over. You can download it for free or grab a physical copy, which is just so cool. I have a copy right here. This one only works on the Game Boy Color though. However, you can play the downloaded one no problem. Massive congrats to Jeremiah and the other cool dweebs who worked on this for pulling this off. Well done, dweebs. I'm proud of you. And that's it. That's all the games that I have to share today. Honestly, I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that people are out there making brand new games for a handheld from 1989. What a time to be alive, if you are alive. And if you're not, then, well, I'm sorry to hear about your death. I hope things turn around for you. Huge shout out to all the talented developers out there keeping the dream alive. The 4 Shades of Green Game Boy dream. You guys are freaking legends. And I'm sure I missed some really good Game Boy games, so let me know in the comments if you know of any other modern Game Boy games that I should check out. I've definitely got the itch to discover more of these. And I have modern games from other consoles to share in future videos. Lots more to come, so stay tuned for that. And thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. And as always, I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.